All right, let's try this again. Money, output, and prices in the long run. So much for one take of money. This is like take number 3. I don't know what's happening. Off my game today. So to review monetary policy in the short run, what's happening here is we have expansionary and contractionary. So we can look at either one. I have pictured here expansionary, but typed out on the left side of the screen is both expansionary and contractionary. So we'll just do the, I'll talk about the expansionary one. If we have an increase in the money supply, that's going to lead to lower interest rates. We see that in the money market model. Money supply curve shifts right, lower interest rates. As a result of that, there will be an increase in investment spending. We see that in the second model there, pictured. And then we have, as a result of that, it's going to be an increase in aggregate demand. When we have that increase in investment and in consumption, aggregate demand will shift to the right. So what has changed as a result of the change in money supply? Well, 2 things. Output changed, real GDP changed, and price level changed. So in the short run, monetary policy affects both price level and output. What about in the long run, though? So you see a picture here where we're just focusing on the short run to the long run. So the money supply increased, causing output to increase initially in the short run. When that happens, we're producing beyond potential output. So we have actual output is greater than potential output, which is going to cause unemployment rate to fall because producers now need more workers because of that. So when they need those more workers, now unemployment falls, and since the demand for workers has increased, their wages are going to rise. Now the question is, when do they rise? And hopefully everybody already has the answer in their head because we've said it about 1,000,000 times, but if not, wages and prices in the short run are sticky. So those wages are slow to rise in the case of low unemployment. So in the short run, we are able to produce beyond actual or beyond potential output because of sticky wages. In the long run, however, those wages are going to become unsticky. They're going to become flexible. And when they do become flexible, they are going to increase. And when they increase, that is going to shift the short run aggregate supply curve to the left, decreasing it. So what's the only thing that changed in this picture? Price level. That's it. The only thing that changed is we ended up with a higher price level. So monetary policy in the short run can increase output and prices. In the long run, it only affects the price level. Okay, it looks like that's what this is saying. So in the short run, changes in money supply affect both price and output. So this is, again, just another version of being able to see that. Money supply shifts right, lower interest rate, investment spending increases, AD shifts right, prices and output both increase. And then you have the idea of monetary neutrality. So again, this is what we just described like 2 slides ago. In the long run, changes in the money supply, changes in M, have no real effect on the economy. And the term for that is monetary neutrality. Money is neutral in the long run. It does not increase output. The only long-run effect of a change in the money supply is to change the price level by an equal or proportional percentage. So if the money supply increased by 5%, the only long-run outcome is that the price level will go up by 5%. So that's it. That's the concept of monetary neutrality. The AP test loves this term, so become familiar with it. The concept isn't really new, but the term is. So that's it, monetary neutrality. All right, so what is the long-run determination of the interest rate? So how, if it's not through the Fed making open market purchases or sales and increasing and decreasing the money supply, then what does determine the interest rate in the long run? Well, in fact, in the long run, the interest rate is set by the supply and demand for loanable funds when actual output, Y, equals potential output. So in other words, when it is on the long run aggregate supply curve, as you see to the left. So when that model is in long run equilibrium, then the supply and demand for loanable funds, that is the long run interest rate. So that's what truly sets the interest rate in the long run, is the supply and demand for loanable funds, and it does so when Y equals YP. So it's not about the Fed in the long run, it's about the supply and the demand for loanable funds. All right, so expansionary monetary policy in the long run. So this is drawing how it self-corrects, or explaining how it self-corrects both the loanable funds model and the money market model. So we have the short run we've already dealt with. So we had the initial increase in money supply, which led to lower interest rates, which led to an increase in investment spending and aggregate demand, led to higher output and prices. So that's number one. That's what already happened. We discussed that already. Number two, it's then going to lead to higher price level that is proportional to the increase in the money supply. When prices go up, the demand for money is going to go up. So number three is an increase in money demand. How much more money will we demand? Well, proportional to the change in prices. How much did prices increase? Proportional to the change in the money supply. So all three of those things are proportional. So what that means is that when money demand increases or shifts right, it's going to actually raise the interest rate back exactly to the original interest rate in the long run. So we end up with no change in the interest rate in the long run on the money market model. Excuse me. The loanable funds model, how does it self-correct? So we know that in the short run, there was an increase in the supply of loanable funds because of that increase in Y, which is income or output. So when income increases, people have more money both to consume and to save, is what we care about here. So when people had more money to save, that increased the supply of loanable funds. That's what happened in the short run. However, number two, we know that in the long run, prices and wages unstick, they become flexible, so they're going to increase, especially wages is really what we're focusing on here. And when wages increase, it causes the SRAS curve to shift to the left. That means that income is now falling, number three. So income, Y, is falling. So people have less money now to save. So that's going to decrease the supply of loanable funds, which will just simply shift it back to the left, increasing the interest rate, bringing it back to the original level. All right, contractionary monetary policy in the long run. It's the same idea. Obviously, everything is just going to be the opposite. So in this case, again, picking up from where we left off, we initially had a decrease in the money supply, which increased interest rates, decreasing investment and aggregate demand, decreasing output and price level. The prices are going to fall in a proportional way to the decrease in the money supply. When prices fall, that's going to lead to a decrease in the demand for money, again proportional, causing the interest rate to fall and go back to its original rate as money demanded shifts left. So again, there's no change in the interest rate in the long run here as a result of contractionary monetary policy. The loanable funds model will also self-correct because in the short run, what happened there was we had a decrease in the supply of loanable funds because when Y decreased, that means income decreased, so people had less money to save. So supply of loanable funds shifted left because that's the curve that represents savers. And then what happens is we have a decrease in price, and especially again in wages, which cause the short-run aggregate supply curve to shift right when they get to pay workers less money. So now income is going to increase, so people have more money to save, and that's going to increase the supply of loanable funds, which brings the interest rate back to its original rate. This has been a LaMoney production.